home, sweeping Clemson and Georgia Tech, and I thought we really made some steps as a team and improved on some areas that we were looking to improve on. So great weekend at home, and yes, looking forward to this week at Florida State and Miami. Two teams that have been in and out of the top 25, but have shown they can be really dangerous. Miami beat Texas earlier in the year, and Florida State's been very, very good, and obviously have everybody back, plus the transfer too from their ACC co-championship team last year. So really tough weekend. We'll see if the hurricane allows us to head down there.
Yeah, that was actually going to be part of my first question. Have you found out yet there's going to be any sort of scheduling?
No, haven't found out yet. And it's interesting, I know Florida State and Miami played each other the day before the last hurricane hit. So I know they try to get matches in. It'll just be the timing of when it hits land. But we'll see. Luckily, we're chartering, so I know that can make it a little bit flexible. And we're supposed to go to Florida State first, which I also think works in our favor for timing of the hurricane.
Dani, ever since the Nebraska game, it's been 4 straight sweeps for you guys. What do you think has clicked ever since that game for you guys?
I think the biggest thing is, realizing that we have to work a bit harder and be a lot smarter. And I think we took for granted, we have a really great team and awesome players and chemistry and culture, and that's not enough. And I think we thought that might be enough at the beginning of the year. And so just realizing we have to work harder, and there's things we have to continue to get better at. And then you have to play really good this year if you want to beat great teams. And there's so many good teams. I know I say that every week, but the volleyball world is impressive right now, just with the amount of great teams and players. And it's just the perfect storm for the sport of volleyball with the COVID years and the real seniors. It's just impressive teams across the country.
You guys had, I think it was 13 blocks yesterday against Georgia Tech. Kara's up there for top 5, top 6 in the country with blocks per game. What's made you guys so proficient up close?
Running the 6-2, so we always have a right front blocker. We don't have a setter up there, and I think that's helped Kara a lot. She gets to block next to Reese Robbins 2 rotations, and a lot of players are trying to avoid Reese, and then they hit into Kara, which is great for us. But she's just improved a lot from last season, and last year was her first year fully as a starter, and that takes a while, especially at the middle blocker position of just reading the game. And so she's really improved and done a great job. And then, Hannah Sherman's played the last couple weeks, and she had 8 blocks on her own yesterday. That was super impressive, and she's a great blocker and one of the best blockers on the team. And the system really allows her to shine, which is nice to get her in.
Dan, we've talked about the ACC and Pittsburgh and you guys in Stanford ranked, and you said Florida and Miami State. Florida State and Miami. When you look at the other at the top of the standings right now, North Carolina, Virginia, there's a lot of teams playing really, really well. Why is it so deep now? Do you feel like why this jump? I mean, obviously we know about the good teams, but it seems like the middle of the pack has gotten better.
Yeah, we had a big coaching turnover in the ACC, 3 or so years ago. So I think everybody's starting to hit their groove and getting recruits in that they recruited, and so that is a big factor. But I do think the transfer portal and the addition of COVID seniors, this is the last year, but a lot of teams are benefiting from having an experienced player in their 5th year that may have, been successful at their last program, and they've moved on. So I think that those 2 things are probably the biggest factors. But the ACC's always been good. It's just great to see us finally closing out some of these tough matches across the country. You see some like North Carolina beating some Big Ten schools, and I think we've always been close, and this year we're closing those, so it's great for the conference.
Dan, you had talked earlier a couple weeks ago, I think, about Ann maybe struggling a little bit for her anyway. Has she gotten past those problems?
It looked like it. Last 2 weeks she's been on fire, and just more herself, and maybe that Nebraska game relieved a little pressure from her. We don't have to be perfect, and we can still have a great year. And now we know a little bit more where we stand and what we have to do. So I think that's helped too. But I think also getting used to a new setter. You know, she's with our freshman setter for 2 rotations, and that's a change. And I think they're starting to mesh really well, and you can see that in matches. Their timing has gotten real good. So I think she's also, like I answered before, just taken on the responsibility of got to work a little bit harder and maybe do a few extra reps, and you know that helps with confidence too.
Played a lot of matches in the Young Center. Was it any different this weekend, being both of them back?
You know, it's funny. We love the Yum Center, and I'm all for growing the sport of volleyball, and it's, you know, huge for the city to play in the Yum Center. But there's something about LNN that is it's fun, and it's like intimate, and the crowd, those are like the true volleyball fans, and they're super into it. And so it was nice being back in LNN. You know, I don't want to say we never want to play in the Yum Center, that's for sure, because we play very well there usually, but it was fun being back in LNN.
After we talked to you last week, Elena got some honors, obviously, for her play. Solid every weekend. I mean, it's almost like, how do you not take her for granted? Because she just comes up and does it. What, can you just speak to the fact of how consistent she's been throughout?
Yeah, I've been saying I think she's playing her best volleyball of her career. I mean, that's not super uncommon for a senior, but it's really impressive for somebody that's been so good and regarded as one of the best in her position in the country for the last 3 years to even take it up a notch. I think she's gotten just better with her communication and just controlling the back row. And statistically, some of her numbers might not be quite as good, but she's taking so much more, and she's taking so much pressure off her teammates, and I think that's really starting to show and help us out. But she's been unbelievable this year, and there's no doubt we would not be in this position without Elena and the elevation of her play. All right, guys, thank you all for coming.